Hello! Today we are making one of my all-time favorite Christmas cookies. This recipe is for gingerbread men, and if you are not a fan of gingerbread, I'm here to change your mind. This recipe comes from my sister-in-law Beth. She's a phenomenal cook, and I have had it published online for 4 or 5 years, and the reviews are phenomenal. If you are not a gingerbread lover, this recipe will change your mind. It's soft, tender, the texture's phenomenal, the spices are just right. It's sweet, but not so sweet that you don't want it with a cup of tea in the middle of the afternoon while you're watching your favorite Christmas movies. And it is just a joy to eat. They're so much fun. I actually sell them at the Christmas Farmers Market, and they do really, really well. Everyone who eats these cookies loves them. Another thing that I like about these cookies is that you can decorate them, but you do not have to decorate them. So if you want to and you have time, you can, and if not, they're great standalone cookies and they're cute regardless, and they hold their shape very well. So here's how you start. You just need a whole cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. And it's at room temperature. We're gonna add a cup of granulated sugar. We're gonna beat that together well until it's nice and fluffy. It's about look a little bit curdled. That's really normal. That's because you added the vinegar. So next we're going to add 5 cups of flour. It's fine to add it all at once. And this is the salt and baking soda. And then 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. A teaspoon of cinnamon. And a teaspoon of cloves. This is my favorite spice blend for these. It's perfect. And we're just gonna mix that together again. Okay, here's the texture of the dough at this point. It comes together, it's just a titch sticky. It's not terribly sticky, it's a nice middle. So it's about as soft as most traditional cookie doughs, if not a little bit stickier. It's okay if it is just a little bit tacky because we're gonna refrigerate it. And I like to stir it just a little bit out of the KitchenAid, just because sometimes the KitchenAid doesn't mix very well right in the middle at the bottom of the beater, and that just makes sure that that spot isn't too wet or too dry. So a little bit sticks to my fingers, but not tons. So we're gonna divide this into 2, wrap them up well in plastic wrap, and we're gonna refrigerate them for 30 to 90 minutes. You can make this dough ahead of time. It's fine in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, which is awesome. You can make it ahead of time, bake hot cookies when you want them. If you are going to put it in the fridge longer than that 30 to 90 minute window, just let them rest on your counter for 15 to 20 minutes before you roll them out, because they'll be really stiff if they're that cold, and then that will make rolling them out easier. Okay, my chilling time has elapsed, and now we are here. You can use all kinds of cookie cutters. You do not have to commit to a gingerbread man or woman or person, and you can use any kind of cookie cutters you want because they're really good, and you can use all kinds of size. I have giant gingerbread people. I have smaller. I have a whole set that's gradients, like 8 different ones in 8 different sizes. I have a 16-year-old who made my recipe. Just email me. She did the stacked stars, where you have all the different shaped stars and you stack them up and it looks like a Christmas tree. She used this recipe for that and it turned out beautifully. So you have a lot of options for this. I'm just gonna unwrap my dough. See, it's not too firm, not too soft, it's right in the middle. This has been sitting out about 20 minutes because I had it in there longer than my 30. This is my second batch. I now have 4 giant pieces of dough in my fridge. My kids aren't sad about it. So lightly flour your surface. Doesn't need gobs, but you also don't want it to stick. So the beauty with this recipe is you can make the dough ahead of time. You can keep it in the fridge. You can actually freeze the dough ahead of time. It thaws really nicely. And you can even make the cookies all the way through baking. You can bake them and you can freeze the baked cookies. That works super, super well too. So I always bake these ahead. Oop, it broke. I'm just gonna work with half of it. And I have a bag made, baked in my freezer almost all winter long. I love having some extras. Do you see, this is because it's cold, it's cracking quite a bit. Let the heat of your hands warm that butter back up. Just press it back together. It's not a big deal. Because it keeps them soft and chewy, and then I bake them for about 10 minutes. If you like them a little bit crisper, roll them a little bit thinner and bake them a few minutes longer. Or if you're doing something like the star tree, bake them a few minutes longer so that they're a little bit crisper and it'll make them sturdier. Okay, I'm gonna do some mediums and some smalls. I wiggled my cookie cutter a little bit just to make sure it went all the way through, and he came out really nicely. And I still have some cracks, so I can either like avoid them with the cookie cutter, because that one was gonna be right on his little head, and so I'll just make it go in between the cookie cutters, or you can use the heat of your fingers and spread them out a little bit. Two pans at a time. So this, I'm actually gonna reknead it. This is why I didn't want like too much flour on it in the first place, because I just am gonna incorporate all of it. Don't work it a ton. That was probably 3 or 4 times folding in half, but then that just makes this top a lot smoother to work with. Because all those pieces, it looks like one cohesive piece of dough. If you just have all the scraps together, you'll see the lines where they overlapped. A little bit of little flour underneath. And see, this is warmed up, so this is a lot easier to roll than that first one. It didn't matter that it cracked, it's just a little bit harder to work with. And a really thin metal spatula will go really long ways if something starts to stick a little bit on the counter. That'll really save you. Okay, I'm gonna bake these up. If you're baking 2 pans at a time, switch the pans from the top rack, like if you have one on the top and one on the bottom, switch them halfway through baking, and it might take a minute or so longer since there's 2 pans and they're taking up the heat. Again, I have a lot of luck baking them for exactly 10 minutes. That's the texture that I like them at if they're not too thick. These are not a 1/2 inch. They are much closer to the 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna try 9 minutes and see how they look. So 9 or 10 minutes for these thinner cookies. And if they were quite a bit thicker, you can bake them up to 14, 15 minutes. Just all depends on the size. If you had this guy, if you cut it out and it was quite thick, it would take 15 minutes to bake. So just bake them, get to where you like them, and I'll show you what we do after that. The first pan is out of the oven. It's cooled for a few minutes on the pan, and they are beautiful. They don't crack, they don't spread, they puff up. The texture is absolutely perfect. Look how beautiful they are. They're just perfect little, but they're still tender. Do you see that? You can make little indents. They're soft. perfectly spiced. I love this recipe. I can't wait for you to make these this holiday season with your family. They're great to share with neighbors. Again, I'm Melissa Griffiths. I blog at blessthismessplease.com. You can find hundreds and thousands of recipes there. This is one of my favorites.